A diary is a great way to get things off your chest, in particular feelings of anger or disappointment. But what if your diary wasn't a silent listener? What if when you wrote in your diary, it listened, and it tried to help in its own way that perhaps was just a little bit evil?
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hey, my spookies. It is indeed Wednesday, and it is time for a little spooky in your weekly. Unfortunately, I come to you tonight from a place of sadness. As many of you know, about 2 months ago, I lost my dog Chicano, and a few days ago, I also lost my dog Henwolf, and it's been really hard. I'm a dog person, but Henwolf was my first dog. I adopted her when I was 31 years old, and she became the perfect companion for me. She had a lot of health struggles. I adopted her when she was 7 years old, and for the last 2 years, I've been caring for her as she lost the use of her hind legs. And unfortunately, that battle finally, it had to end, and she had to rest. She was an amazing dog, very loving, very loyal, very excitable, and one of the hardest things about losing her is that she's not laying here right now next to me while I record the show. I could always count on her to sleep on the other side of the room. Sometimes I would have to do another take because she would groan or grunt or sneeze. I'd give anything to have her napping in this room right now while I do this intro. So, we do have a show for you. I wanted to record this. I like bringing you spookies a little taste of the macabre every week, but after the show, if you want, I'm going to do a small tribute to Henwolf and tell you a little bit more about her, and then that'll be the show. I really appreciate you guys humoring me. I just need to get this stuff out and talk about all of it. So, yeah, thank you all. And thank you all to everyone who's helped with any of the veterinary costs between Chicano and Henwolf. It's an amazing thing to love so much. So, on another note, let's go to a great story by Rob Fields right after these quick words. Horton's New Diary by Rob Fields. Let me ask you all a very simple question here. Do you, or have you ever had that one big kid at school who only lived to make your life as miserable as possible? For me, that was Bull Hitziger. No, Bull wasn't his real name. People called him that since he was bulky like one. His real name was Irving. Anyway, I'm sure you've heard stories about how bigger bullies like him always went after skinny nerds like me. I'm sure I don't weigh 100 pounds soaking wet. I wear normal clothes, but also glasses with thick round lenses. I'm always so calm when I speak. For the record, there isn't much that scares me. Except maybe ghosts. Getting back to Hitziger. His sole purpose was to look for me each and every day at school. I never saw him on the weekends, so I got a bit of a break. We met shortly after Chapman, Chunker, and I returned to Strickfield Junior High back in early November. I had finished fourth period and left the classroom when someone grabbed me and threw me up against a locker. That was Hitziger. He told me simply he didn't like me and I didn't belong at his school. And yes, it was known that Strickfield Junior High was Ariel Mirren's school. In theory, I think Hitziger crossed paths with Ariel and lost that one. Since he couldn't have his way with a queen bee like Ariel, he thought he'd go after a smaller fish. Like me. Hitziger got really mad when he saw I wasn't afraid of him. He also forgot I had friends. It seemed like every time Hitziger came for me, one of them was always there. He couldn't even have his way with the girls, especially Maddie Donnerly. There were also times when Principal Benjamin Van Diest saw him bullying and gave him detention. Now, you just knew he was going to get me alone at some point. It was on a Thursday after the holidays were over. I was leaving school for the day and walking home. Mom said she wanted to take me out to celebrate my birthday. I often cut through the alley by the Strickfield Centennial Theater and walk another block to get to my house. Hitziger was waiting in the alley and appeared from behind a dumpster. Suddenly, he lifted me off my feet and hung me up. Then he knocked my books out of my hand. He sneered at me. "You're dead meat, nerd." I raised my finger a little. "Careful, you might make me a ghost." Then he pounded his fist into the palm of his other hand. "Oh, I'll do more than make you a ghost." I sighed and shrugged. What did I ever do to you?" "You exist," he said simply. When I got home, Mom knew when she saw me holding both halves of my glasses. "What happened to you, Richard?" Mom yelled. Now, I don't want you getting the idea that Mom's overbearing or mean to me. She's just very protective since it's just the two of us. Mom never talked about my dad, and I don't ask since I never see any pictures of him anywhere. There's a time when you lie to Mom and a time to tell the truth. Much of the time, I tell her the truth, and I told her about Bull Hitziger. Interestingly, Mom knows everybody around the village part of Strickfield. She was on the phone with Bull's parents and going off on them. It sure was a heated argument since both sides were yelling. Mom threatened to sue Hitziger's parents if they didn't pay for my glasses. I went up to my room and put on glasses I had from before. Then she came in and demanded to know where my so-called friends were when I was in trouble. Yeah, Mom's never liked any of my friends, including my 5 new ones. I couldn't tell you how many times she's tried getting me to stop being friends with everybody, especially Chapman and Chunker. Like I said, Mom can be overprotective, especially after being gone a whole year because of Abigail Tomlin. Again, Mom's not a bad person. To be fair, she gave me a good life and a great home. I explained to Mom why my friends weren't there when Hitziger did what he did. In a nutshell, they all had other commitments. Yeah, they help me out when they see I'm in trouble, but I can't expect them to be there all the time. After Mom and I finished arguing, she left me alone. Then I pulled out my diary and wrote in it about what happened today. I know, you wouldn't think a skinny nerd would keep a diary, right? Or that I'd be using a real old-school pen that you have to dip in a bottle of ink to write in it. I've been doing it since starting the 6th grade. It's been therapeutic in helping me get my feelings out. I saw I was on my last page and had to get another diary. I would go into downtown Village and get one either at Wilder's Market or one of the 2 pharmacies. After finishing today's entry, Mom appeared in my doorway. "You're still feeling up to celebrating your birthday, Richard?" I looked her way and nodded. First, Mom took me to get a new pair of glasses. Then she took me to the Strickfield Town Center Mall for dinner. You wouldn't believe how dead the mall was now since the holidays were over. Many of the stores closed up and left for the season. There were still the big anchor stores, JCPenney, Best Buy, and Dillard's. I wanted to go to the mall for dinner because I loved Scotto's Pizza, which was still a mainstay there. I don't know what it is about Scotto's, but for me, their pizza is just tops. The others don't mind eating here with me, but they say they've had better. Mom seemed to like Scotto's too. After dinner, Mom took me to a movie, then for a birthday ice cream cake at Big Ed's Soda Parlor, where I opened all my presents. One of them was a new diary that had a lot more pages in it than the past diaries I've had. Unlike the other diaries, this one had this antique cover on it. The pages also looked and smelled antique, which told me Mom might have found it somewhere outside the village. I wasn't going to ask her, though. Oh, and Chapman and Chunker both texted me to wish me a happy birthday. My other new friends didn't know since I never told them. Since Mom wanted to celebrate my birthday with me on said day, I had to wait until Saturday to have my birthday with the guys. The next day at school, Hitziger suddenly ambushed me and stuffed me into my own locker. "Aw, did you tell your mommy on me, you little wimp?" he jeered. "Making my folks pay for your new glasses? Well, let's see you tell your mommy you're spending the rest of your life in your locker." Then something slammed up against the locker door. Soon the door came open. Chapman helped me out of my locker. Chunker and Carter Cross were with him. "You okay, Horton?" Carter asked. I give my pals my usual smirk. Hitziger never messed with the guys and backed off. It was Carter who threw Hitziger into the locker after he stuffed me inside. He pointed right at me and said I was dead meat and that my friends wouldn't always be around. When I came home from school, not only were my new glasses broken, I didn't even have a shirt on my back. Also, my books were soaking wet after Hitziger dropped them in a puddle from when it rained all day. Mom was furious again and was on the phone with Hitziger's parents yet again. I decided to write in the new diary Mom got me for my birthday yesterday. I wrote down what happened today and added something to the extent of how I wished Hitziger would just disappear from my life. After I finished, I went and cleaned up. Who would have thought it? Bull Hitziger was nowhere to be found at Strickville Junior High on Monday. I remembered he was supposed to present his paper in English class. Oh well, at least it was one day where Hitziger wouldn't give me a hard time. You want to know what the funny thing is? Not a single person ever mentioned his name, even Mr. Ford. Hitziger was also in my science class with Miss Rodolfi, and she never once said his name. You know, teachers usually do their seating charts before class to make sure everybody's there, even calling out their names. Not once was Irving Hitziger said. In fact, Hitziger never showed up to school for the rest of the week, and none of the teachers even mentioned him. Come to think of it, the guys never mentioned him again, either. When the weekend came again, I was writing in my new diary. I put in how much I really liked Bailey Downs for being my lab partner in my science class, and how she talked to me on Friday nights when we're watching movies at Maddie's. Then I said I wished we could hang out a lot more. After I finished, I turned on my computer and saw Chunker messaged me. The guys wanted to meet up at Roth's Rings later. Just then, a new conversation suddenly started from Bailey Downs. I chatted with both Bailey and Chunker for a bit. Then Bailey asked me if I wanted to hang out today. Wow! Talk about a stroke of luck, right? I told Bailey I'd definitely hang with her. Then I told Chunker I wouldn't make it to Roth's Rings and why. Chunker said okay and that we'd talk later. Bailey and I walked around downtown Village and spent all of Saturday afternoon together. We eventually went into Big Ed's soda parlor. As we were enjoying our milkshakes, Mona Abels, Bailey's closest friend, came in and found us. Before Mona could say anything, Bailey looked mad. "Can't you see I'm busy here?" Boy, did Mona ever look stunned. I've seen Mona and Bailey enough to know these two are timeless friends. Yeah, they bickered sometimes, but, okay, I'll, talk to you later, Mona stammered. She still looked hurt. When Mona left, Bailey turned her attention back to me, just the way she was looking at me now. Then she took and held my hands. I suppose under normal circumstances, what I was thinking was likely impossible. Then I remembered I live in Strickfield, Ohio, and that I'd actually met a couple of honest-to-goodness ghosts in Abigail Tomlin and Mary Worth. Even when it was time for me to go in for the night, Bailey didn't want to leave me. Then I remembered how I said I wanted to hang out with her a lot more. And what was more, Mom got way overprotective of me again when she saw Bailey was with me when I came home. I was still thinking about today when I sat down at my desk and opened my diary. After dipping my pen in the ink bottle, I wrote about my day with Bailey. Then I deliberately wrote something about how I wished Mom would just leave me alone. I didn't write it to be mean, but I had to know if my theory was correct. I finished the entry and closed up my diary. Sunday morning came. I could smell those wonderful smells of breakfast as I got out of bed. I put on my slippers and went downstairs to see what Mom was making. Except it wasn't Mom in the kitchen making breakfast. It was Bailey? Bailey actually had on a dress and apron and was moving around the kitchen like she had always lived here. Then she brightened up, smiling from ear to ear when she saw me. "Hey, you!" she cheered. "Breakfast is almost ready. I really outdid myself this morning." She pointed at me. "And just for you, my darling boyfriend." Suddenly she had this weird look when she backed me up against the wall. Have you seen Mom anywhere?" I squeaked. Bailey gave me another weird look. "Since when do you need a mom? You got me." Then the front doorbell rang. I raised my finger and slipped away from Bailey. "Hold on." I answered the door and saw, "Hey, Maddie, what's up?" I let Maddie in and she handed me a book. "You weren't paying attention, but you left your English book in Mr. Ford's class on Friday. I almost forgot about it. Anyway, just here and giving it back to you." "Oh, hi, Bailey." Suddenly, Bailey got really mad, pointed sharply at Maddie and roared, "Richie's mine!" Then she grabbed a big sharp knife out of the drawer. "I'll kill you, mouse!" Maddie and I both knew Bailey wasn't kidding around. We were ready to run out the front door when Bailey made an amazing leap and buried the knife in the door. Maddie and I quickly turned tail and ran upstairs. Mom's room was right there, and we locked ourselves in. "What is going on, Horton?" Maddie shrieked. "Slam! You just wait, mouse," Bailey yells. "I'll kill you! You can't have my guy! Richie's mine!" I knew I could talk to Maddie since she knew about weird stuff too. Then I told her about my new diary and what I wrote in it. "You know where your mom bought it?" Maddie asked. "It was a birthday present," I answered. Maddie seemed to have an answer. "We gotta go look at it, Horton." Maddie and I had to get to my room, so we came up with a plan. I unlocked and opened the door. As soon as Bailey rushed in with the knife, Maddie was on all fours. Bailey fell over her and was on her back. Maddie got back up and we ran to my room. After locking ourselves in, I showed Maddie the diary. Bang! Crash! "Open up, Richie! I love you, don't you understand?" Bailey screamed. "Mouse can't have you!" Maddie pointed to the diary. "Tear a page out. Just do it." Funny thing, I positively couldn't tear any pages out of the diary. I even tried poking a hole through a page with my pen. The page wouldn't even show that I had tried doing it. 10-1, this new diary came from Tinker's, Maddie said. Then she explained to me how Tinker's was a store that just happened to appear to the right person. From there, you'd go inside, and Tinker would sell you something he knew you needed. Usually, the item had something deeply wrong with it. On top of that, you couldn't destroy them. Now I never let people read my diaries, not even Mom, but I let Maddie read what I wrote in the new diary. Yeah, sounds about right. Everything going on in here. "Richie!" Suddenly, the door began coming apart. Bailey kept stabbing at it and throwing herself at it enough times. She looked in at Maddie and me. "I love you, Richie!" Then she said to Maddie, taking after Ariel Mirren, "I hate you, mouse!" Bailey screamed as I got an idea. When she finally burst through the door, I slammed the diary down on the desk and poured the remaining bottle of ink onto the pages. Maddie and I looked at each other, hoping, praying it would work. Bailey suddenly stopped and dropped the knife as she reached Maddie. Epilogue. It was my birthday all over again. It was like everything since my birthday before had never happened. Well, almost. I'll get to that. Everything happened the way it did before with Mom taking me out for my birthday. Like before I got that diary. Only thing I did was open it up. There was nothing written in it from when I'd written in it before. Oh yeah, Hitzziger was back at school and giving me a hard time. Bailey was still my lab partner in science class, but at least she wasn't obsessed with me. Obviously, Mom was back since she took me out for my birthday. Funny thing, though, Maddie actually remembered what happened. All of it. We talked about it in private. We ultimately agreed that since I couldn't destroy the diary, it had to be kept safe. I gave the diary to Maddie and told her I'd be too tempted to write in it again. She understood and promised me she'd keep it safe. We went out and found a diary similar to the one from Tinker's. Mom never knew the difference. As for how things went from here, Hitzziger still gave me a hard time. He eventually got off my back when he saw my friends wouldn't let up on him, or that I actually wasn't afraid of him. Bailey Downs and I did start talking more, and we hang out sometimes. Also, when Mona or Maddie came around, she didn't bare her teeth or go after them with a big knife. Mom was still overprotective of me on account of she was a mom, and I was all she had. At least she finally started to call me Richie instead of Richard. Yeah, I'd say life was good now, as long as that diary would never come back into my life ever again. Speaking of ever again, we'll be back for some more adventures down the road. That's all for now. Another fun and spooky romp through Strickfield with our good buddy Rob Fields. Thank you so much, Rob, for this week's story. So, you're welcome to shut the show off if you don't want to hear this story, but I really wanted to share it. About 7 years ago, I adopted Henwolf, and she was a morbidly obese mutt dog that was 7 years old and had been returned to the foster. I saw this dog and I thought, man, what a cool dog. So I adopted her, brought her home, and she immediately ingratiated herself into my entire life. She had the most beautiful, soulful eyes I've ever seen in my life. And from the moment that we were together, she made it very clear we were a team. She would follow me around. She would sit when I told her to sit. She would stay when I told her to stay. We could walk without a leash. She would go on car rides with me. It was something really special, something I had never experienced personally. And she just brought so much joy to my life, especially during the lockdown and during COVID-19 and everything. She was always there guarding and protecting me and my inevitable second dog, Chicano, who passed away a couple months ago. And it was a wonderful experience adopting an older dog and giving her another chance at life, because you really can teach an old dog new tricks. It's going to be very hard to go on with the show without her, because she was always, and I mean always, with no exception, she would lay in the booth with me while I recorded these shows. In fact, she laid in the booth with me on last week's show, even though she was very sick and very tired and really struggling. And it was shortly after that show was recorded that we had to decide it was time to say goodbye, because we love her so much. So, thank you for listening to this. I really appreciate it. I just needed to get it off my chest. And thank you so much for listening. I promise next week won't be so sad. So until next time, my friends, please stay spooky and love your loved ones with all you got.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.